9% of venture capitalists are female, and less than 2% of VC dollars go to female-founded companies. It's when you grow up not seeing people that look like you and that have similar experiences in the fields that you're hoping to get into, that changes confidence and that changes what jobs women end up applying for.
Okay, hi. Today I'm here with Sarah Phillips, who is the CEO of Girls into VC. Yeah, I guess before we get into it, for those of you who don't know, what exactly is Girls into VC?
Thank you, Rhian. Thank you for having me on. Girls into VC is a 501c3 nonprofit as of 5 months ago. We have 10,000 members across the globe, across 75 countries. And the main thing what we do is we're an educational resource. So we take on volunteers. That's what makes up our entire exec board. And we offer programming for women across the country. So college chapters, whenever you go to college, our goal is to be there at the club fair and to provide a community on campus. But we also have national organization programming, including our fellowship, which is an educational program. We also offer startup and externship programs. So we work with partner organizations in order to provide real hands-on work to get into venture capital. That is the goal behind Girls into VC.
Interesting. So I'm kind of wondering what got you into venture capital in the first place? Yeah, what got you into it?
Yeah, so in full transparency, I had no idea what VC was when I was in high school and when I was younger. I thought I was going to be a neurosurgeon coming into college, and I'm a junior at Princeton, but my freshman year I was pre-med, thought that was the track for me. And by accident, I found myself in a lot of business clubs, and I noticed I was the only woman in almost all of them. And that was shocking that A, that was the case in 2026, and B, that was the case at Princeton, where I thought there'd be the most amount of women in business. Those two things really upset me, and I went to an all-girls high school, and so that led me to wanting to create a community for women in business, but specifically venture capital, because I love investing, I love startups. That was the world that I found myself in when I realized the pre-med track wasn't exactly what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I worked for a lot of startups, I worked for a lot of funds, became obsessed with the process of first doing research, but then talking to the founders that are building incredible things at a really large scale. And Girls into VC came into that picture. I wasn't the founder, but I started the first Girls into VC chapter here at Princeton and scaled that my freshman spring to 160 girls, and then became more and more involved, eventually becoming CEO, which is today.
That's so insane. I did not know you pivoted in college. That's actually really cool. I guess for people similar to where you were a couple years ago, just finding out about venture capital and what it is, and people who are kind of intimidated to join, what's some advice that you have for them?
Yeah, that's part of our model here at Girls into VC is if you are a girl, even considering venture capital and working in startups and becoming a founder, the first thing you can do on your college campus is hopefully we have a chapter there. So you can automatically join our club. We are unlike a lot of other business clubs where there are cutoffs in order to get in, or it's pretty exclusionary. Our goal is to increase access as an organization. And so our chapters have events open to everyone. You can be a part of our community if you identify as a woman and want to be a part of that community. But I will say, if you're just thinking about your career and starting out, the best question is what excites you? And the best advice I got for coming into Princeton was to try a lot of different things. And like the example I told you before, Ria, of by accident joining business clubs, that accident led me to seeing the pathway that I wanted to go on. So being open to trying things that you're not an expert in is the best advice for anything in life, and not being afraid of that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Kind of like an exploratory mindset around stuff like that. I guess for you, because you are in Girls into VC and you kind of have explored this kind of stuff, what's like the impact of having such less representation of girls in venture capital, investing in companies, choosing which companies get more money and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm going to share two statistics that are baffling that are true for 2026. First, 9% of venture capitalists are female, and less than 2% of VC dollars go to female-founded companies. That is true as of
Oh, wow.
2026, and those numbers have been going down each year. So That is the why behind Girls into VC. We realized that there was just not representation. I mean, the fact that when I was in high school, I didn't even know venture capital was a possibility as a woman. And now I meet with high schoolers who tell me they're going to be venture capitalists and know that and believe that. That is the difference that our organization is helping to show. We're providing role models, we're providing access. But that is the industry and the market that exists right now.
Yeah, I know it's so crazy to me because when I imagine venture capital, I imagine like guys in vests and just like a very toxic, like one-minded culture. But I think VC really has the potential to be so much more than that with so much more diversity and representation, especially since these are the people choosing which apps or companies get developed further. So, yeah, I'm kind of wondering what is the next step for someone who's maybe joined Girls into VC or has gotten their feet dipped into venture capital, but like what are some experiences that they can do to further their interest?
Yeah. The first thing that you can do, even if you're not even a part of the Girls in VC community, but I hope you join, the attitude that you show up every day, the passion of the exploratory nature that we were talking about before, the kindness that you show everyone, the ability of just being curious and excited to learn. Those are three key things that are needed in this industry. And the fourth is being scrappy and hardworking. In any job, if you have that, you're going to go really far because all of these jobs take long hours. They're really hard, but if you're showing up with the best attitude, you're going to do well. For VC, what's really important and what we tell our girls in our community is Girls in VC is just the launching point. Once you join, you get access to a bunch of different things from our events at Harvard to our events around the country to our programming and internships and chapters. It can be kind of overwhelming because we have so many opportunities that you can do. But the best is to choose things that are really thoughtful and show up in a present way every time you choose to go to something, whether it's Girls into VC or not, because that's this industry, right? You're going to meet founders in creative ways. You're going to have to stay up late to research the intricacies of a really random market that you're interested that a founder has a company in. It is hard work, it is long hours, but part of that is you just get to learn. And so I tell this to all of our girls because those skill sets that you'll develop through Girls in VC serve for every industry and for any passion that you have. So that's the advice I say to start with in Girls in VC, but continue for your whole career.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love that. I guess my next question was kind of for looking more into your personal experiences because I know like you've mentioned some of your struggles with being sometimes the only woman in the room in business clubs and stuff like that. I know some founders have had experiences where people will ask them if they're going to still be the founder of the company or the CEO of the company if they have kids or some like really invasive questions that women face. I guess what are some kinds of personal struggles that you've had and you've faced or ties to this issue of representation that you think you really learned from or is something you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think representation is one of the hardest things. When you grow up not seeing people that look like you and that have similar experiences in the fields that you're hoping to get into, that changes confidence and that changes what jobs women end up applying for. How confident they are in their interviews, what you feel like you're able to do. There was some statistic that came from Stanford where it was for the exact same job, more women, even if they're more qualified, were actually less likely by like two times. To apply for that job because we think that we have to hit every single box because that's what society has told us. And so I tell all of our girls, and I've personally experienced this too, of having to check yourself and say, I might not have every single characteristic that this boss might want. And I'm still going to apply because I know myself and I'm going to bet on myself. That's if we're talking about investments, I'm the best investment in myself that I can make. So understanding that and believing that, and going back to my freshman year at Princeton, right, joining all of these business clubs and really only seeing myself and maybe one other girl in the room, I could have said, no, I don't want to be in this space because I don't feel like I have other people I can relate to. But instead, challenging, no, I know if I stay in this club, maybe some other girl who applies the next year will feel more comfortable because I will make sure to mentor her and make sure she knows she has a seat at the table. So that is what I ask all of our girls to do. We're changing an industry, but doesn't happen overnight. And it starts by adding your seat to the table and creating your own spaces. And Girls in VC started out of that, creativity of this is a real issue. We're going to create something else because no one else has created it for us. And we need a community and we need to increase access. So don't be afraid to be that trailblazer, that person that chooses, no, I'm going to change this because my legacy and the people that come after me matter just as much.
Yeah, no, I love your point about not only overcoming like your own imposter syndrome and your own kind of disbeliefs in yourself, but also like creating a path for other people because I think that kind of removes the issue from yourself. And, like maybe me doing this is actually a good thing for other people and not just like self-serving or like me getting the job. Yeah, I think that's really valuable. Thank you so much. I guess my final question, which is something I like to ask all of my guests, is in the future of this field, what do you kind of see or what do you hope to see?
I think the obvious answer is increased access. I do not want any women to second guess themselves and why they belong in this industry. I don't want those stats that I started with at the beginning of the 9% of venture capitalists being female and 2% of VC dollars going to women. Those should not be the reality in 2027 and 20 years
Yes.
down the line. And so if we can continue to work together to change that, and yes, understand that it is hard at the beginning, but it takes a village. That is the exciting part is that we're starting to see the change that is important. And we can do this together. And I truly believe that. I wake up every day knowing that we're doing the good work now so that the girls much younger and eventually when I have daughters and granddaughters, this world and this ecosystem is in a much better place.
Yes, I love that message so much. I hope anyone who's watching this feels just that much more empowered to maybe get into VC, get into startups, even entrepreneurship, and explore something they haven't before. But yeah, thank you so much, Sarah, for being here and for
Thank
saying
you. Yes.
so much encouraging and thoughtful advice. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you. And thank you for hosting this. It's important that
Yeah,
people get to see access to a bunch of different women. I know you've interviewed a lot of people in the past, but thank you for doing that work as well.
thank you so much.